The Flames. History's greatest secret and key to a future where ships travel lifetimes to bring flames to new worlds. Those who dare to walk the fire can cross between the stars with a step if you can find a ferryman and pay your way across. For most who brave the flame alone are lost forever. May the ferryman take you. Crucible and Flame. Written and narrated by John Miro. 2. The delegation walked for 20 minutes. The ferryman tugged his hood back above his eyes and took the measure of the place. In the dark halls running the length of Generation Ship 227, a bitter antiseptic smell wafted off everything. The walls freshly painted, in honor of this visit no doubt, but that couldn't hide the age and the squalor of the place. The guards were stone-faced but sweaty around him. The rest of the ship's delegation flashed him quick, curious glances in between equally sweaty efforts to ingratiate themselves with the Goloban legal. The ferryman let his amusement play on his face. These simple men controlled the fate of everyone on this ship, just as their fathers and grandfathers had. But they hadn't yet learned the lesson that when the universe came calling, the illusion of control burned quickly away. They'd be burned soon, and he was going to enjoy watching it happen. His smile disappeared after the delegation passed through the third set of airlock doors. He knew the pinch in his right boot would be a blister soon if he didn't get out of the moldy things the fire always cursed him with after a crossing. At least once past that last airlock, the air smelled better, and the walls were not only clean, but adorned with artwork, sticks of furniture. One corner of his lips twitched. He fought down the urge to touch his tattooed cheek again as he entered the domain of the owners and decision-makers. He hoped they were close to his quarters, where he was sure the good men and women of Ship 227 would have prepared more fitting vestments. And that dermal regenerator, he growled inwardly, if they ever wanted him to cross through their flame again. He drew the cloak tighter around himself reflexively and took comfort in the fact that the imported suits weren't doing the rich old men of 227 any good. They were tugging at their collars and talking over one another in their growing panic. Things weren't going their way. The ferryman knew they must be terribly surprised the legal from Goloban Corp was not impressed with their mail-order suits. Surely you see, Legal Critchlow, to sign a universal services contract with Goloban without first considering other offers. No, I don't see. The legal stopped abruptly, and the entire entourage staggered to a stop around him. The ferryman's crooked smile grew wider, taking in the legal's power posturing. It was like watching a good game of 10-ball. There are hundreds of ships just like 227, and you all think you're noble, special, because your fathers and grandfathers lived and died to get you to some planet the scans all say is habitable and resource-rich. A tall man, younger than the rest but still with gray at the temples, stepped in front of Captain Dietrich. With all due respect to Goloban Legal, we're not a rich ship. I'm sure your good sirs and good ladies will be willing to put your best offer against any. You won't see our best offer if you enter into negotiations with another corporate. As a matter of fact, I'm already tired of this, the legal snarled, drawing himself up. You people won't see any offer. The legal turned to the ferryman, his lips turning down at the marks he saw tattooed there. You, turn around, we're leaving. He crooked his eyebrows at the legal. He enjoyed the way the little man was making the peasant squirm, so bowed a fraction of an inch, playing along. It is your passage to choose, of course. Goloban doesn't squabble for rights, the legal muttered and started walking. You cogs kept a ship running for a few hundred years. Big deal. You want to haggle like you're something special? Go fight for scraps from some other corp. We don't need you. Wait. The cry came from every mouth before the legal had taken 2 steps. The ferryman almost laughed out loud. He knew he'd just seen 227's will broken before the legal even sat down at the table. Well, the legal sniffed. All right. He tossed his business case to the captain, who caught it, then reddened and averted his eyes. But you'll pay for this insult in the negotiations. Better than 10-ball, the ferryman thought, and then grunted as the legal pushed his personal case against his chest. Shocked, silent, he grabbed the case thrust at him, too. Have that put away. I expect a suite with a bath for 4. Make sure there's a window, a big one, mind you, and plants, and girls in the bath when I get there. The legal grinned. The plants and girls will both be fresh and both be green. Before the ferryman could speak, the contingent broke in two. The ferryman's honor guard and a few juniors looked around, confused, as the rest silently rushed after the legal. The ferryman's eyes widened. The insolence. For the legal to treat a ferryman in this manner? Gollibin would pay billions for his services next quarter. Billions more. Who was this legal to treat me? An insect of seconds. How dare! The ferryman watched the delegation depart, unable to think through the insult and his rage. He held the personal case stiffly out from his body. One of the juniors scurried to take it. "To my rooms!" he roared at them. The followers looked around at each other, white as sheets. "Don't they teach the subclasses English on this rust bucket? To my rooms!" he spat. A short girl stepped forward. "Ferryman, all apologies, but we assumed—" He glared at her, shifting his weight, and pinching his heel in the vile boots he always walked out of the flames wearing. She found a tiny voice to continue. "We assumed you would stay at the church." His face froze. The church? He didn't laugh. It was perhaps the closest thing to a sin a ferryman could commit to belittle the church of the flame. He wondered what kind of church this rotting hulk could possibly have, and only trusted himself to grunt his assent after 5 long, deep breaths. Church better not be far, he thought, as he battled fatigue, his cutting shoes, and the insults of the legal. The party bowed low and waited. It took him a minute to realize what they were waiting for. For him to turn back around and return the way he'd come. Back into the antiseptic halls and the bowels of Ship 227. Then he realized what kind of church lay ahead, and where, and let all the ugliness he felt set his expression. They scurried forward, deferential and obsequious, even the stone-faced guards moving nervously and more quickly now. With a hiss of fury, the ferryman followed. He knew his shame burned on his face, and he drew his hood back over his head, hiding the flush. And the numbers. The flame burned into his skin with every crossing. Walk the Fire by John Miro. Learn more at servingworlds.com. Theme music, Full On by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Many of the stories you listen to at servingworlds.com were made possible by the support of patrons at patreon.com/servingworlds. If you like what you hear, please consider adding your support. Thank you for listening.